a private California company will attempt the first-ever commercial cargo run to the International Space Station in February. NASA announced the news Friday, 1 year and 1 day after Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, or SpaceX, became the first private business to launch a capsule into orbit and return it safely to Earth. A television show that had recreated the Occupy Wall Street camp in New York apparently to film an episode did not have a required permit to set up before shooting began Friday morning and was asked to stop the crew's preparations for safety reasons, the mayor's office said. The Army has offered a northern New Jersey family over $7,300 to compensate for damages from wayward artillery shell shrapnel that crashed through their roof in 2008, causing the death of their cat. The 2-pound fragment traveled more than a mile from Picatinny Arsenal and punched a hole in the roof of Frederick Engel's Jefferson Township home. Facial recognition apps carries risk of user privacy violations, FTC warns. The political head of the New Zealand islands of Tokelau recently announced a new energy policy that would seem quite outlandish to most individuals living in first world nations. Abandoning traditional energy sources, Tokelau will be completely powered by sunlight and coconut oil. An architecture firm said Friday it regrets a bizarre design for 2 high-rises in Korea reminds people of the Twin Towers exploding on September 11. A mock-up shows 2 soaring skyscrapers connected in the middle by a pixelated cloud that evoked the clouds of debris that erupted from the iconic World Trade Center towers. The architecture firm says it didn't notice the uncanny similarity, but Jim Riches, a retired FDNY deputy chief whose son was killed on September 11, said he didn't believe the architects. "I think it's a total lie and they have no respect for the people who died that day," he said. In an ironic, seemingly ritualistic twist, the towers will be at the entrance of the Yongsan Dremhub project, which was designed by Daniel Libeskind, who created the master plan of the rebuilt World Trade Center. Climate Conference approves landmark deal on a program mapping out what is being called a new course by all nations. The 194-party conference agreed to start negotiations on a new accord that would put all countries under the same legal regime enforcing commitments to control greenhouse gases. Okay, friends, some key terms used in this article like all nations, same legal regime, and, along with the new border and trade deal with Canada recently announced, it's becoming more evident what many of us know and have tried to say plainly for so many years now. The elite's plan of a one-world government will fail, but it's not going to stop them from sweeping the world under their banner, subsequently eradicating sovereignty everywhere. People in the southern part of the state of New Jersey reported feeling the ground vibrate and shake at about 10 a.m. on Saturday, December 10. But a geophysicist for the U.S. Geological Survey tells the Press of Atlantic City that although the cause isn't known, no earthquake was detected. A 6.5 magnitude earthquake struck in Mexico's western Guerrero state Saturday night the 10th, shaking buildings and causing panic in the nation's capital and the Pacific resort of Acapulco. The U.S. Geological Service initially estimated the quake at magnitude at 6.8, but downgraded it to 6.7 and then 6.5. A quake of that magnitude is capable of causing severe damage. The USGS said the quake occurred 40.3 miles deep and was centered about 26 miles southwest of Iguala in Guerrero. That is 103 miles south-southwest of Mexico City. Well, it has begun, and you should be outraged. Predator drones are now being used on American citizens. A Predator drone spy plane helped police make arrests after a North Dakota family's run-in with a local sheriff. But that was just the start. Local police say they have used 2 unarmed predators based at Grand Forks Air Force Base to fly at least 24 surveillance flights since June. The FBI and Drug Enforcement Administration have used predators for other domestic investigations, officials said. An earthquake in Rakhine State in Burma has caused underground water temperatures to rise, setting off volcano eruptions of mud and small amounts of lava. Retired geologist So Thine said volcanoes in the Kiakfayu Township area on Ramri Island were set off along a fault line. More volcano eruptions might occur, but there is no danger or need for mass evacuations, he said. In what seems like yet another staged event surreptitiously pushing our waterways and biosphere to the edge, the owner of a San Jose landfill is facing one of the largest water pollution fines ever issued in the Bay Area by state regulators, following a spill of thousands of gallons of foul-smelling liquid last December into a creek at Alameda and Quicksilver County Park. An Arizona high school girl is recovering after being bitten by a police dog that somehow got out of a patrol vehicle. Although North Carolina officially apologized in 2002 and legislators have pressed to compensate victims before, a task force appointed by Governor Bev Perdue is again wrestling with the state's obligation to the estimated 7,600 victims of its eugenics program. The board operated from 1933 to 1977 as an experiment in genetic engineering, once considered a legitimate way to keep welfare rolls small, stop poverty and improve the gene pool. 31 other states had eugenics programs. Virginia and California each sterilized more people than North Carolina. But no program was more aggressive. The Missile Defense Agency has awarded Lockheed Martin mission systems and sensors in Moorestown, New Jersey, a modification that could be worth more than $184 million to a $1 billion contract it received in October 2010. The modification calls for Lockheed to continue work on the Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense Combat System and the Aegis Ballistic Missile Defense Weapon System on cruisers and destroyers. The Defense Department said in its contract announcements that the modification will allow the unit of Bethesda, Maryland-based Lockheed Martin Corporation to explore future weapon system concepts. The attorney for Harrisburg City Council says he has filed an appeal of a judge's decision to throw out the bankruptcy petition of Pennsylvania's debt-choked capital city. Last month, federal bankruptcy judge Mary France ruled Harrisburg may not seek bankruptcy protection, calling such a filing illegal. That ruling cleared the way for the state to take over the city. Hangar 1, once home to the Navy's giant airships at Moffett Field, finally has a few willing benefactors. Google's top 3 executives have offered to salvage the historic landmark. NASA's response: "We're thinking about it." Larry Page, Sergey Brin and Eric Schmidt, the CEO, co-founder and executive chairman of the web search giant, respectively, have, through a company they control, proposed paying the full $33 million cost of revamping the iconic hangar. But there's a catch. They want to use up to 2/3 of the floor space of the hangar to house their fleet of 8 private jets. Yesterday the White House revealed a new plan to fight what they allege is the threat of homegrown terrorism. A threat which has been artificially hyped up for some time now. The Obama administration continues to promulgate the fake threat of terrorism in order to justify their increasing erosion of civil liberties and massive expenditures on so-called counterterrorism efforts. Through so-called community outreach programs, the federal government fosters a pervasive sense of paranoia and fear which allows for wildly un-American and incredibly dangerous legislation like S. 1867 to pass with such astounding margins. The 24-page report released yesterday draws parallels between domestic extremism and gang violence and sexual offenses, while a recent Department of Defense letter called the Fort Hood shooting workplace violence. Police say an Indonesian student activist has died after horribly setting himself on fire in front of the presidential palace in downtown Jakarta. Thousands of people have attended the biggest anti-government rally in the Russian capital Moscow since the fall of the Soviet Union. As many as 50,000 people gathered on an island near the Kremlin to condemn alleged ballot rigging in parliamentary elections and demand a rerun. The family of Jonathan Davis, a logistics contractor in Pakistan when he died suddenly January 31, 2010, are faced with some sort of ritual, as someone left the charred carcass of a bound rooster on the black granite slab marking his grave at Riverview Memorial Gardens Cemetery in Cocoa, Florida. A senior commander of Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard says his country will not return a U.S. surveillance drone they said they have captured by its armed forces. An Alabama family that survived last year's deadly tornado is working to rebuild their lives. They just got an early Christmas gift that could keep them alive if another twister comes their way, a safe room.
At all those payday financial centers, we can outthink your holiday season more expensive.
The world of entertainment, the world of Hollywood comes to Six Flags. It's showtime. Don't make sure you know a car. Drive today. Are you at home trying to sleep, but your mind still What's the fastest way to get big, huh?
Once there was a beautiful princess who lived in a hamlet called...